everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Bobble Pod. I got a very exciting episode to talk about today. We're going to be discussing, is marketing the dream job? And I've got a very special guest with me from Houston, Texas, Art. Quickly say hi, Art.
How's it going, everybody? Glad to be here.
Fantastic. So before I begin, as always, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe. I've got the Mr. Bobble official channel on TikTok, Instagram. Feel free to connect with me and get in touch. Drop your comments when you see the clips and the videos, and don't forget to rate the podcast as well. So straight into it. It's 6:20 a.m. where you are in Houston, Texas. You just told us. I am very grateful for you to get up so early in the morning and have a chat with us. Before anyone knows, we kind of blindsided out a little with the chocolate test, but you never got to get to taste any of the chocolate. It was America versus England, and unfortunately, somehow England still lost.
Yeah. Once again, America prevails.
America prevails. We connected on LinkedIn a while back. I sharecased my podcast stuff with yourself, and you showed an interest in coming on board, and we organised it. And here we are, a couple of months later, with you as our first American guest.
Wow.
Very exciting. On the Bobble Pod. How amazing. So
awesome.
I'm really excited to have you on board. So for our listeners, for our regulars, for our new listeners, please give a background of who you are and your career so far in the next 2-3 minutes.
Awesome. I will do my best to do just that and not take an hour. No, but genuinely, once again, I'm glad to be here. I was born Brandon Price, and I think it was ironic that I ended up a marketer with the name Brand and Price, working sales and marketing. Very wild, but I'm actually an artist by trade, hence the name. The art is short for artistic virtuoso. So I actually was born a singer, dancer, actor. I actually went to school and studied that here in Texas. Shout out to Sam Houston State, my alma mater. Was a double major in music and theater, minored in dance. But while in undergrad, I had an epiphany and this was in the early 2000s, where there was a shift occurring. We were transitioning heavy from, the analog era of things into what we know as today, present day, digital. Social media was just kind of getting its legs and really becoming the early stages of what we know today. And I kind of had a conversation with God and was like, okay, if I don't make it to Broadway or Hollywood or anywhere, then I'm going to become an art teacher, which is admirable, but doesn't pay sufficiently well. And it's actually become one of those jobs that is being cut drastically in our American system, the school system. So, I found a job in advertising during that time and had the revelation that every business and artist needs this, right? And so that started me on a journey that little did I know I had started studying as a kid. I was fascinated by the release schedules and marketing campaigns of popular artists. I'm a child of the hip hop era, so I watched very closely how a lot of guys kind of bootstrap their way into superstardom, but then also others that were just kind of like doing things that had never been done before in the industry. And even, big companies, you name them, like your Apples, your Samsungs, your Cokes, you know what I mean? And just kind of being fascinated by the art of branding, right? And what modern day marketing looks like. And then, like I said, it just become a fascination for me. So I started my company back in 2012.
And that's MFM Media, right?
Yes, sir. That is.
So when did you start MFM Media?
That was in 2012. That just became a brainchild after working in advertising and traditional advertising for a newspaper for about 4.5 years. And I couldn't convince them to start selling Facebook ads. Right.
Really?
Yeah.
Back then, I don't think Facebook ads was as popular as it has been in, let's say, the last 7-8 years.
Not at all. Not at all. But between 2008 and 2000, maybe 10, it was super early, super early.
But
Now,
you had the big market crash as well in the US during that period, didn't
2008,
you? Well?
I literally started working in advertising at the peak of the crash.
Wow.
Yeah,
I was still at university, mate. Like,
yeah, same. No, seriously, I was still in undergrad during that time, but I found major success. What's very funny about that, I was working for the school newspaper and doing so well in advertising that I was being paid similarly, if not more than some of the professors in the department that the newspaper was housed in. And so they ended up like looking at me or coming to our business manager and like having meetings like, okay, who is this guy? He's like, that's our advertising manager and he's awesome. You know? And so, yeah, like I was doing well, like as like still in undergrad, was doing annually probably like about 56K.
Wow, well done.
Yeah. And it was
even as an undergrad, well done.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was absolutely awesome, especially coming from a single parent household where I was expected to foot the bill. I got some good scholarships to go to school and everything, but it didn't cover everything, right?
Yeah.
And so that was really a blessing to be able to kind of work my way into a situation where I'm able to take care of myself, and it gave me, like I said, it gave me the skills of the trade to be able to, that is literally what opened my mind up to entrepreneurship in general, because that was my first commission only sales job, which is, I think, one of the only areas in the traditional job market that can idealistically like train you with the skill set to become an entrepreneur.
Wow. Fantastic. Amazing journey.
Yeah, it is.
Amazing journey.
What is it that you love so much about marketing then? Tell us, what was that spark?
I think on the one hand, it satisfies the nerd interest in me in taking, like immense amounts of data, right? And being able to translate it into some level of messaging that could actually be beneficial for a company, right? And marketing is so vast, right? There's at least 16, 17, 25 different mediums just on the digital side, not even including traditional media, like advertising on, TV, radio, magazine, billboards, all of those things. Just on the digital side, there's so many different avenues, SEO, organic marketing, organic content marketing, paid ads, all of these different things. But to kind of zero in on it is just kind of a way to understand that marketing is just a business term for communication.
True. Yeah.
Right.
I agree with that.
It just becomes the language that a company speaks, right, to be able to tell their story to the market. And it gives the opportunity for the market to be aware, be familiar, and once the market becomes familiar, then it's branding.
I think that's one of the best explanations we've had.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. When did you get the marketing bug then? Were you always going to be a marketer? What did Manni want to be when he was growing up?
I wanted to join the army.
Really?
My parents would never have let me do that. But I always wanted to join. Military strategy came naturally to me. Good chess player. Great at COD.
When you say it like that, the similarity between something like strategy for like army operations, strategy for like a marketing plan, it's not that dissimilar. Really.
So my mind, I'm a bit like yourself. Like I have a nerdy mind, I have a strategic mind, but I have a very creative mind as well. And I didn't want to do things like accounting or just general business and stuff. It didn't really appeal to me. But what really appealed to me was film advertising. Going to the cinema, and we've had this conversation before. James can't believe that I love going to the cinema to watch the ads before the trailers come on. To me, that's heaven, because back then, I think between probably, I say in the 2000s to 2005 to 2015, film ads were like some of the best. And you'd have like game ads come out, you'd have Halo come out, you'd have Assassin's Creed, and they were so visual, and it was really in the point. And I was like, one day I'd love to be involved in like film advertising and putting it together, because I really loved my musical scores. I love my soundtracks and stuff. And then that was the first thing. I was like, I like the visual element and the creative element of this and being involved in that kind of project management and strategy. Then I got lucky, even though in a recession in 2008-9, I did a free work placement for an agency here in Leeds, which is quite big now, called 26 Digital. And the minute I was immersed into that atmosphere, I was like, yeah, this is what I need to do. It's like, almost like, I love this. I love the atmosphere. It was fast paced. So it was work hard, play hard kind of element. And I think it really worked with how my mind worked in terms of strategy planning, creative thinking, execution. When I go back to uni, we were always taught the Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yes.
And right at the top is self-actualization. Mm-hmm. So when I think in terms of my personal career, how do I get self-actualization? It's when I creatively, strategically put together a plan for a client, execute, and they get the results they want afterwards. Yes. That's where my self-actualization comes from, is the results, but defined by all the other elements I'm good at, which is creativity, strategy, and data. I love data as well, so I have a nerdy side, quite a lot, big nerdy side that people are aware of from that bit. So that's what it was for me.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. There is it's almost like a Nerds Anonymous that we've got going on here. But I think you've got to be a little bit nerdy to want to do something like marketing, because there's a really creative side and then there's a very administrative side, and those two kind of have to work really well. If you're just creative and can't do any of the admin stuff, or the analytics or the reporting, you're probably going to come a little bit unstuck. So that kind of nerdiness is really necessary. What I'm interested in asking you, and this is a question to both of you, and I don't know how you kind of go about answering this. There's so many things where we look at the UK, and the UK is probably like 5-10 years behind the US in terms of how it's developed and stuff like that. So I'm interested in kind of like the agency scene, the marketing scene, and how they differ and how they're sort of similar between those two markets.
I'll answer this one first. I think, and Art disagree with me freely. I think the biggest difference between the UK and the US market is size. The number of companies in the US market that are always innovating and coming up with ideas and adopting new tech is significant. I mean, the US is becoming a tech hub. I mean, it's taking a lead in AI, it's taking a lead in everything. So they're more open to marketing and advertising, whereas the UK is more based on traditional UK. We're service-led. So actually selling marketing into services-based companies here is a lot harder than in the US, in my opinion, because there's that old stigma of doing things the old way, more traditional. But our biggest export is our time and our expertise and services, which we give to other countries and we give to different companies. So there's a big differentiation between how big the US is as a market compared to the UK. So I think you've got more chance of flourishing in the US market because of how it leads and innovates and continues to grow its economy. And we know this from data providers, whereas look at where the UK is right now. It has stagnant areas. However, I think the digital marketing aspect in terms of what we do in the UK is better than what's delivered in the US, because we're more data-driven, more process-driven as well. And I see that when I'm talking to clients in the US and they compare me to a US agency, they're like, they're not even thinking about this in terms of like our Bobble Insights platform, transparency, how we're bringing different aspects together, very strategically, very data-driven. That's not going to be the case for all US marketing agencies. You've got UK companies going out to the US and tapping into the US market. You've got US agencies coming to the UK, but you see more of the UK agencies go out to the US as opposed to the other way around.
Yeah.
That's very interesting insight. I think that's actually a fantastic question. And I would be willing to dig a bit deeper just to kind of get the highest level of insight, because just on at surface level, I think you're absolutely right with your assessment. Excuse me. I do believe that one of the advantages that the UK market has is the emphasis on the data analysis and understanding how to implement, then the implementation aspect. I think the advantage in the US market would be our creative. We natively understand the platform, especially when we're talking about digital marketing. When we're talking about digital marketing, we just natively understand the platforms, right? I think there's a lot of players with, pun intended, the people that just play on the platforms and just kind of experiment and do the things. But one of the things that I believe is the biggest downside in the U.S. market, if I can be completely frank, is most of the agencies are shit because
well,
they're just selling they're just selling smoke, right? It's like, okay, we can create these social media ads for you, or we can, I'll give you, this many leads, right? Like, for example, I did some freelance work a little less than a year ago for this agency that was specializing in real estate services, right? So they were doing lead generation for realtors, right? And they guaranteed like X amount of leads within a month's time and all of this stuff. And to be honest, their structure was solid because they had VAs, not to go through their entire process, but they had VAs, they had ads going out to lead generation. They had VAs that were doing the lead qualification, right? So making sure that they met certain criteria, and then they will be passed off to the client, right? And I think that was a pretty solid structure. They also kept the lead for nurturing on the back end. So there was this fledgling company. They were very early on, bootstrapping. They probably had like 6 to 8 employees or what have you. And good solid service. Now, most other agencies that are selling the same service are giving crap leads, right? They have not been cultivated whatsoever. That's probably one of the biggest complaints in a lot of these lead generation on the client side, is that people are paying for a service that they're getting crap leads, and people are just not delivering. So I say to people all the time in the market, marketers make it bad for marketers, just, honestly, right? They do a good job at getting the word out, but they do a terrible job at delivering. And I think that is absolute crap, right? But at the same time, as as a person of faith, I understand that humans are prone to flaw. And so that's going to be the case across the board, no matter what industry you're in. 98% of what you're battling with is just human nature, and if you can differentiate yourself to be the top 2% and about the bottom 98, right? Just by delivering. If you can just deliver on what you say you're going to do, that will put you in a great position, right? And so I agree with you that on the data side, those that do focus on, and that's the advantage of modern day marketing, is the fact that we can run the same exact ad campaigns. If we can go back all the way to, Mad Men era, old, you know what I mean? Madison Ave magazine ads, which was the, hot cakes at the time, right? We can use those same strategies, but then utilize it with modern day data analysis. Like, it doesn't matter what company especially if it's a mom and pop small business, like, they're going to do incredible. You know what I mean?
think one of the things that helped me is I did a degree in marketing and advertising management. Then I did a master's in marketing. So I'm quite rare in the marketing scene where I've done undergrad and a postgrad in the topic in which I run an agency now in.
Yes.
But what I'd say is a differential factor for me in that is I learned the theory, I learned the methodology. Then I went and implemented it and saw how it was implemented into real agency world, where I was able to say, actually, that actually monitors this brand prism, et cetera, in terms of how much like that with a particular brand. And I think that is what gives me a little bit of an edge, because you mentioned it. It's like that same methodology, the same underlying structures, stems, roots, whether it's digital or where it used to be offline, hasn't really changed.
Not at all.
It's still, I always say to people, if you really want to understand marketing as a whole, it comes down to 3 pillars of success. Knowing what you want to achieve, your objective, and making sure you're able to clearly deliver that objective and have a good website that able to convert that objective. 2 is understanding who your actual customer is. So if your job is to raise awareness or raise, in your first pillar to raise leads or sales, right, you know what you want to do, you know what you want to achieve, great. Now identify who's going to buy that, who's going to lead on that, who you need to raise awareness to. Then it comes down to message, because you can define your objective and define your audience all you want, but if you don't have a clear communication strategy, a clear communication way of communicating what you do well, then you're not going to be successful. It always comes down to always those 3 core fundamental pillars. And when I go into big companies, they fail on those 3 key pillars as a basis. I mean, they know they know they need to be running Google ads. They know they need to be running, social media advertising. They know the customer, but their ads are terrible. Does that make sense? So the website isn't built to convert, because the ads might be really good, but the website's terrible because it's clingy, the UX experience and stuff like that. So, yeah, there's a lot of differentiating factors, I think.
Yeah, that 3 pillar system is solid, honestly, and I think even if you were able to focus on 2 out of the 3, you would do drastically like just knowing who your customer is, I think, is probably the top thing, especially if you're doing anything on social media, because the data will help you find them, right? So just knowing who your customer is and the messaging, right? We can figure out a target based off of who the audience is. You know what I mean? Like, we can make something up just by learning more and more about who it is that we're serving, as opposed to doing it the other way around. It's like, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to offer you this, and you don't even know if the market wants that. Let's poll the market.
Art, I want to just take things in a slightly different direction now, right? Bear with me on this. This is going to sound like I'm going off a million miles from what we've been talking about, but there's a point to this. So anyone that's watching this podcast back that's got the visuals will know what I mean. But just for the benefit of anyone that's listening to it, so I'm going to describe you, Art, as quite. I feel like you've got a look going on there. You've got quite a stylish look going on. So you have a red baseball cap on. You've got a red hoodie with, I think that's Tweety Pie, which is awesome. That is
Tweety Bird. Yep.
Yeah, that's amazing. But then, so your microphone is the same one that we've got here, but it's the all white version of the microphone. You've got an all white mic stand. You've got white headphones on. I think you've even got a white cable coming out of the back of your microphone, which I don't know how on earth. I've never even seen a white XLR cable before. So we talked earlier about being a little bit nerdy. I am well nerded out at a white XLR cable. So yes. I feel like you've got a real kind of, you've got something going on there. So the question that I want to ask, taking all that into consideration, I'm really interested in what your answer to this is. What is the piece of work that you are the most proud of when you look back over your career so far? And that doesn't need to be limited just to marketing. It can be anything at all that you've been involved in. What is the thing that you are the most proud of when you look back?
Wow, that is a solid question. And just contextually, everything around me is white, right? So like super branded. My partner is a stickler for those type of things, but I'm just as much that, like a white table. I don't know if you guys got the Rodecaster. We found the limited edition white one to match the microphones, and so we had to get everything else. But yeah, best. So I'm going to be a little bit self-serving here and say that so I'm still a performing artist right to this day. I tell people all the time that I actually only went into business for myself to fund my dream as a performing artist. I would say the one thing that I'm most proud of is the fact that I still desire to create and perform creatively. I got called back to my hometown. Shout out BCS, Bryan College Station, Texas, home of the Fighting Texas Aggies. That area, kind of like, my hometown is kind of a good example of the mesh of the creative and the nerd, because truth be told, it's small town Texas. Like, it's basically only known for the university, but those of us that have, like, air quotes, made it out were because of some innate skill set or something that was learned along the way, and 9 times out of 10 it was something that drew them out of the area, right? Now there's many successful people that are there and still there doing awesome work, right? Not taking away from any of that. However, as an artist, it was almost impossible to do art coming up by staying there. You had to go away. And so for me, I got really lucky, being an 80s baby and born into a time where, I think as us elder millennials, I think we are the cheat code in human design of current day, because we understand both the analog and the digital. And so everybody's looking to us for the answer, whether they like to admit it or not.
True.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of like the both the Luke Skywalker and Yoda. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So, but yeah, like, the ability to do something that I've never seen done is, like, I had no idea how I was going to become a founder and a C-suite leader in an organization, but also a performing artist, and all these other different hats that I'm wearing in a way that was possible. Is like, we grew up in an era where it's like you chose one thing and you did that one thing. If you're a farmer, you're a farmer. You're not a farmer and a DJ. But modern technology allows us to be whatever the hell we want. And I think that that created kind of, and I'm a firstborn of 3 boys from my mom, and I feel like that's one of the things that we, as firstborns, we're like kind of like the guinea pig and the trendsetter, so it's like whatever route that we choose and the way that we choose to do things is kind of like what actualizes it for the rest of people that come behind us, right? And so I kind of set a precedent, unbeknownst to me, where it's like, okay, you can do whatever you want. We were very much taught, is like, hey, you can become anything that you set your mind to. And I just decided, you know what? I'm not going to limit myself. I'm going to become as limitless as possible. And, just by being born, I defeated the odds, And so every day is just kind of like an actualization of that, is overcoming the odds. And so, like I said, just sitting here having this conversation with you guys is literally a manifestation of that. Like,
you'd rather still be in bed. It's all right. You can tell us the truth. We know.
He's probably going to go have a huge breakfast after this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my gosh, yes, this is incredible.
Well, this has been a really good chat so far, but I have to go back to the point at the start of this. We said this episode is about whether marketing is the dream job, and we've got to figure out an answer to that. I don't know how we're going to go about trying to reach some kind of conclusion from that initial question that we set out to answer here.
I guess it depends. I mean, for me, I'm 100% going to say, look, it is the dream job. So to put some context in, last week we onboarded a new client. And in that call, the client said to me, Manni, do you even get any downtime or sleep? Because obviously I'm very energetic, but I'm constantly on the go. And I responded fully saying, yes, I think it was a Thursday once. But it was like, yeah. And which she laughed at. But I had to say to her, I said, look, I travel a lot because we've got offices and leads in Dubai. And I was like, this isn't a job for me. This is something I'm truly passionate about. And it comes across in terms of how I talk. It comes across on my podcast. It comes across to my clients. I mix business and pleasure at the same time. So if I'm, going to be, let's say in Houston, Texas, and I'm working with a client, you're damn right I'm going to go try the best barbecue in town. Sure. You see what I mean? And I'm going to go watch I'm going to go watch, I'm going to go watch the NFL. I'm going to go watch everything. I'm going to enjoy myself, right?
Yes.
So if I'm in Dubai, in the morning, I'll go for a hot air balloon ride, but I was still delivering in a pitch at 11. So I was up at 4 a.m. on a hot air balloon, got back for 10, an hour later, got ready, suited and booted into a turban and delivered a pitch at 11. So you can mix your day. And I was like, look, for me, there's no 9 to 5 schedule with this. This is 24/7, 7 days a week. This is what I work on because this is what I'm passionate about. Yes. Until one day maybe I get tired and the light gets very, very low, and I'm like, I need to focus on. And I've always said this in my previous podcast, like I'm passionate about it. This is the dream job for me. Was it the dream job when I was younger? No, I'll be honest with you. I had other elements, but as I got into this, and for me, it ticked those 3 key boxes in my brain, which was creativity, strategy, and the data, the nerdy analytics side for me. So for me, I've hit the trifecta. So for me, this is the dream job because I can do all those 3 things, be agile, and do what I want. And I would recommend anyone, if they've got a very creative, strategic mind, or they have a bit of a nerdy element, there's something in digital marketing, there's something in marketing that can be a dream job for you, depending on what skill set you have, if you really define it and focus on it.
Yeah, I completely agree. Now, I think that the lifestyle that you live, and there are several other marketers that I'm sure it's the influencer lifestyle. You know what I mean? Like they might get the wrong idea. Like if you only judge it by Mr. Bobble's lifestyle, like you're probably barking up the wrong tree. We got to start somewhere, you know what I mean? Like you got to push your papers, you know what I mean? Like you got to be, well, let me rephrase that. The true answer to the question is yes, it depends, because as we said before, marketing is such a long, lengthy list of different detailed roles, right? Like the first thing that I will tell you is don't go looking for a marketing job thinking that you're only going to be doing social media or only going to be, on the data analytics or whatever the case side, which most people do not come to marketing for the data. Most people, right? They come for the bright lights. They come for the, the color, the creativity and stuff like that, but, ironically, they, are kind of set back to realize that it's much more than that. Yes, it definitely is. And it's very unfortunate that a lot of organizations don't have a true understanding of what their marketing is. And so they'll hire a marketing director or, a marketing manager. And now this marketing manager is having to wear 16 hats that should be for 17 different roles in the company. And so if you like, fast-paced, rapidly changing, always, something else to learn, these different nuanced things, marketing is going to be super critical for any organization. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I preach is I went to a conference probably about right around 2 weeks ago with Grant Cardone. Right. And there at the end of it, I thought it was absolutely brilliant did a massive wedding ceremony, right? And it gave everybody that attended the opportunity to get married to Sam being sales and marketing, right? And I thought that was brilliant because I'd say all the time that like any business is probably the most important topics for your company, regardless of what industry that you're in. Sam, right? Sales and marketing will get you to the top level in most cases of any industry that you're in, especially in present day, especially if you can utilize some level of the tools that are available to you as far as digital marketing is concerned. Is it the dream job? Yeah, it depends from what vantage point that you're looking at it from. Me, similar to you, I kind of stumbled into this particular environment, and come to find out I was made for this. Like, this is a perfect exhibition of my talent and skill set, as well as my personality, you know, because I was always told that I had the gift of gab and that I could sell snow to an Eskimo. And I was like, okay, let me try, you know.
And you realize you could.
Right, exactly. It's like, I'm pretty good at it, actually. And so, but also to your point, I'm very adamant about being trusting or trustworthy and transparent, right? Because I do also know that there's snake oil salesmen out here. Mm-hmm. And so just as much as I do my due diligence to not be that, I also seek to educate the market that I get access to, as to, you know, the pitfalls to avoid when, you know, putting somebody over their marketing and or sales, right? Is like, okay, these are the things that you want to be educated in and understand whoever is in this particular role when it comes to your company, right? Because most people just want to see it done, you know, just kind of set it and forget it. And which is great, but like, I think today's society, because things are moving so quickly, you have to have some level of a hands-on, even if it's just, you know, understanding the basics, you know, of like what you were saying before was like, what is the objective?
Yeah.
If you as a leader of the organization can just understand what your marketing is supposed to do and not what you expect it to do, which are two, in a lot of cases, very different things, you'll get very, very far.
I've always said anyone that guarantee results. We talked about this in terms of we did a 2-part episode before this with the agency owner, and we talked about basically anyone that guarantees you results is lying. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't guarantee results in marketing. But I like the emphasis you just said there. It's what should your marketing do in terms of what you expect it to do. When you have such high expectations, I think you're already setting yourself up for failure, because then you've put it on a pedestal that it can't really compete with, because you haven't really done the due diligence analysis in terms of where you sit across. Let's just go back to even the basic 3 pillars I mentioned. So yeah, I think we both agree. I love that when you said made for it. Amount of people that say to me, you're made to do what you do. Mm-hmm. Like, you can see it just naturally comes through you. Am I lucky? Yes, of course I'm lucky, because the other alternative would be I'd be a military director somewhere, or a general or a colonel or something potentially.
How many people though never find their calling, that thing that you're good at doing, that you're really passionate about, where it doesn't feel like work? Like, you know, there are days that are harder than others, but like what a joy it is to do something that you genuinely love, whatever that is, whether it's marketing, anything. I love listening to people that talk about what they do when it's really passionate and it really comes through, even if it's something that I'm really not interested in what they do. But the way that they talk about it and the passion that they have for it is so admirable and lovely. And there's so many people, and I've got friends who are in their 30s, 40s, some in their 50s. They've not yet found the thing that they love. They've not found the thing they're passionate about. They're just going through the motions. They're doing the only thing that they can do to kind of make ends meet. And sometimes, you know, if I'm having a bad day, I go back to that and think, how lucky am I that I've found and get to do and make a living from the thing that I absolutely love, because there's so many people that never do.
I think it's a very real thing and it's very unfortunate. And I'm a little biased when it comes down to it. I think most of people don't find it because they're not willing to do the work. There is a certain level of internal work that needs to be done, especially if you don't. Um, I live my life based on this principle that my grandmother taught me as early as age 3, that nothing happens by chance, everything happens for a reason, right? And so if you can start um, asking yourself hard questions, right? The sooner that you can start asking yourself the hard questions, right? And begin to genuinely seek out the answers to these questions only for yourself. It's not necessarily for any other purpose. What'll start happening is life is designed where circumstances and situations will begin to align to reveal the answers to those questions, right? Whether it be from, association or a random occurrence or something like that. And you have to be willing to kind of follow those things. Just be curious, right? Try, experiment with things, not be afraid to fail. Failing is a part of the journey. You know what I mean? There's no losses, is only lessons. You know what I mean? And so as long as you fail forward, I think you're ultimately moving in the right direction. I think most people that don't realize that and again, this is even from my putting my own self in the line of fire. I would say that most people have an unbelievable level of fear attached to their ideology, which causes them to move in a timid fashion and not necessarily be willing to be to experiment or to be curious, right? Whether it be something that was taught to them, which is most cases something that was ingrained in them at a young age, right? Where it's like, this is a certain mentality that I just got and I just kept and never challenged, right? And your life ends up being a manifestation of that internal reality. You know what I mean? So you have to be willing to fight against the current of yourself to realize yourself,
I love that.
Yeah.
I just got one last question for you, which is, what do you see the next 6 months looking like in the dream job that is marketing?
Man, I'm looking forward to the best 6 months, like the best calendar year to date for the agency, as well as myself. There's been a lot of challenge leading up to this current moment, right? Like, not to go, fully into like life story, but like just to tell you the last 24 months, just a few days ago on April 2nd in 2023, I was in a house fire, right?
Oh, wow.
My entire apartment caught on fire. I lost everything, right? I was in radio, doing podcasting and doing different things of that nature, DJing, all of these things. Also, while running the agency and working in corporate, right? I was a banker at the time. Didn't have any fallback plan, right? Was actually just building after a pretty hectic divorce, and so my partner and I, my business partner, has 3 kids. They were all staying with me, and so everybody lost everything. We ended up moving to a different spot, maybe like 7-8 months later. Being there, and then Houston is prone to natural disasters such as hurricanes, right? Flooding is a regular thing out here. Well, Hurricane Beryl last year destroyed our home, right? 3 pecan trees fell on top of the house, right? We're all in it. I'm scrolling through Instagram, everybody else is asleep, but we literally, like, obviously, trees fall on the house, you hear it, like everybody jolts up, and it was all in the kids' room, and to this day still holding.
And everybody's okay though. Just
everybody was in the came in with us, and we're safe. We're definitely divinely protected for sure. But it's just been a a period of like insane challenges, right? And like between the fire, like, you know, I'm in barbecue country. I couldn't smell smoke for 8 or 9 months without being triggered, right? You know, last year, like I was so on edge of, you know, the fear of being homeless and you know, having to start over again was traumatizing. It took me another, like, so a total of probably 16 of the last 24 months I was literally in shock and traumatized, right? However, coming out of that, doing, like I was saying before, doing the work internally, because what you learn is nothing that happens outside of you is to your control, right? Your responsibility is to control what you can control, right? And so if you have this, you know, if you have your mind, you have your heart, you have those things in check, then you'll realize that you actually have more control of your external reality than you could even consider. And so going through all of those things has turned me into a very different human being.
Yeah.
And there's not much that I will not overcome.
Yeah, I always say it's life experiences and how far you come. I recommend you, I don't know if you've listened to it, is when I first restarted the podcast back last year, it's like, where have I been? And I talk about similar challenges I faced in my life. I mean, I've had a kidney transplant just before lockdown, etc.
Wow.
And I think I'm listening to you and I'm like, I think I found my American doppelganger. And like, you know, like literally the same person. I mean, Laura, my executive assistant, is nodding her head. I was like, I can relate to this person on such a different level. Obviously,
that's so good.
Thank God, obviously, and I'm glad to hear that everything's all right and everyone's safe and sound after all the incidences. But it's our life challenges that don't define us, that make us, I always say. So you can decide to let it keep you down or decide to get up and say, right, yeah, let's navigate through this a different way.
Absolutely.
So you're really looking forward to the next 6 months in terms of the agency stuff. Yeah.
Big winning.
And I'm looking forward to hearing about it. I think we should do it like a 6-month follow-up with you to see where things are in 6 months. So we said that the dream job 6 months is really going to take off. That's where that is. And if there's anything I can do as well here in the UK to support that, you just shout out. We're happy to help. I always think in the industry it's about collaboration, not competition.
Yeah, and you know, I completely agree with that, and it's interesting because I one of my colleagues is actually a jeweler, doubles doing business between here and Dubai, and that's actually something that I'm really interested in learning.
About. I can give you the full roadmap to Dubai. Just watch some one of my episodes as well.
This is lovely what's going on here. Just to say, I heard what Manni said a couple of minutes ago as him saying he's going to fly us all to Texas in 6 months to record a podcast with you. That's how I heard it. Yeah, Laura's in agreement. Josh,
you know what? Well, that could be possible. That could be possible because Texas has been a state I've always wanted to go to. I always said if I lived in America, highly likely I'd probably live in Texas because I'd be able to own a sniper rifle, and I'd have a lot of land and
a whole lot of land,
and the food. And then the southern accent. I'm still single, mate. So for me, that British accent in Texas.
My guy,
I would
got you. Oh my God, you come to Houston. As a matter of fact, what's beautiful about what's happening in Houston right now is last I heard, we have over 140 different countries represented in the city.
Wow,
that's good. Yeah,
right. And so like every like nationality, every country, different culture, like it's all housed here, right? Even like outranking the likes of like a New York. And so what you can go just to a different side of town and you're in a different country. And it's all with a Houston flair. There's nothing like it. Nothing on earth like it.
Right. That brings us to the end of our episode. Thank you, Fully Brandon Art Price. Thank you for coming and joining us. We appreciate the time this morning. I know it's quite early for you. I want to thank you personally for coming on the podcast, and we look forward to probably doing a follow-up, and I'm sure our listeners would love that idea. Of doing a follow-up with you in 6 to 8 months' time to see how things have gone. I wish you all the best. I know we'll stay in contact, and we'll tag everything in for the listeners and the watchers so you guys can connect with Art and connect with his company in the US. Just before I go, we've got more episodes coming out, more around our digital marketing top tips that were discussed earlier this year. And before I go, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, follow the podcast. If you're on YouTube, click the subscribe button, and don't forget to follow me at Mr. Bobble Official. Again, thank you, Art. I'll let you say thank you to the listeners as well.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you, first of all, for having me. This has been a wonderful experience, and I do believe that is the start of something very amazing. I love what you guys are doing there.
Thank you.
And, the very moment that you guys are looking to come to the States, drop me a line, and we'll definitely coordinate some cool stuff. I just do want to shout out my partnership company, Off the Wall Media. So we do all things media and entertainment from a marketing and a digital perspective. And MFM Media, we're the wheels behind the scenes. So we love you guys. Thank you so much for the connection. And
thank you.
Yes.
And we'll tag in both companies. We'll get all the information. So anybody who's watching, listening, do follow, do go to his website for both companies. And especially if you're in US based, you've got a great mind there that can help you with the digital marketing in the US. And I look forward to collaborating with you soon. Thank you, Art. All the best.